Hi, everybody. I am here with one of my favorite videos to do every year, and that is my NFL preseason futures bets. Preseason as in before the season, not the preseason, which just ended. But it's an exciting time with a lot of promise, both for the NFL teams themselves and for bettors like me. So I am going to give out 7 futures bets today. They are going to be various amounts in terms of units and fractions of a unit. They are going to be some of the same categories I gave out last year and some different ones as well. So I will jump right in. I will start with my 2-unit bets, and I have 2 of them. These are the plays I am most confident in, and also the bets with the closest to even odds. So I'm going to put a little more juice on them. My first bet is the Detroit Lions to win the NFC North. I think a lot of people have turned on the Lions a little bit after they sort of collapsed in the NFC Championship game last year. I think a lot of people are of the opinion that they were more of a flash in the pan, more of a fluke, and they're not going to do as well this year. And on the other hand, Jordan Love is coming up strong. Had a good finish to the year last year. Caleb Williams is showing some promise in the preseason. So I think some people are skeptical that the Lions are really the favorites to win the division, but I disagree. I think the Lions are going to be right back in the mix, and if anything, I think their loss in last year's NFC title game and just how close they got to appearing in the Super Bowl is going to only motivate them that much more to go out and dominate this year. I also am not quite as sold on Jordan Love as other people are. I think he looked good at the end of last year, but I think it's a little early to anoint him as the next phenom in the NFL. So I like the Lions to win the NFC North at plus 130. This will pay, a 2-unit bet will pay 2.6 units if it hits. So, go Lions. My next 2-unit play is a win total. I like the Washington Commanders to have over 6.5 wins this year, and that payout is at minus 120. So a 2-unit bet pays, I think, about 1.8 units in profit. I'm a believer in Jaden Daniels. I think he's been looking good from what we've seen in camp and the preseason, and I think he's going to have a good rookie year. I think there seems to be some excitement among the fan base of the Commanders. They brought in Dan Quinn as their coach for this year, who's had some success in the past. There's a new ownership group, or I think they were the new owners as of last year maybe, but it just seems like the Commanders are a franchise really turning over a new leaf. I'm not necessarily saying this is the year that they will win their division or go on a deep playoff run, but I think over 6.5 wins feels very plausible for them, and I am confident enough to put 2 units down on the Washington Commanders over 6.5 wins. I'm going to give out my first of 2 one-unit plays. And I'm going to jump around a little bit, but next, I'm taking a bit of a leap with this one, but I like Puka Nacua of the Los Angeles Rams to have the most receiving TDs this season. This is plus 3,800, so a one-unit play will pay off 38 units if it hits. I think Nacua surprised a lot of people last year. He kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody really thought he would be as explosive and dominant as he was. I think he's still kind of the number 2 receiver in that offense behind Cooper Kupp, which is probably why the payout is so high for this bet. But Cooper Kupp is notoriously injury prone, and I think from what I saw of Puka's game last year, he really is just that talented that I think he could take an even bigger step forward this year and be right in the mix to have a lot of touchdowns in what I think will be a pretty powerful Rams offense. So, bit of a long shot to do a full unit on, but I'm going for it. Puka Nacua plus 3,800 most receiving TDs this year. I'm going to give out another season leader bet. This is going to be just a half unit play. I like Montez Sweat of the Chicago Bears to have the most regular season sacks. He finished, I think, around 10th last year in sacks. He finished with 12.5 sacks. He was traded from the Commanders to the Bears mid-season, so this is his first full year with the Bears. I think at plus 3,400, this is a pretty good value. He seems to be hitting the prime of his career at 27 years old. I guess he'll be 28 in about a week or two. He, I think, will be a major component of that Bears defense that is going to need to step up big to bolster their rookie quarterback. And I mean that the defense is going to have to play well because, you know, the offense may be a little shaky behind a rookie quarterback. So extra motivation for them to step up, play hard, and I think Montez Sweat is going to be a leader there. And I'm going to take him at a half unit plus 3,400, which would pay 17.5 units if Montez Sweat leads the league in sacks. So I'm going to give out a couple of long shot plays now, or plays that I think are more longer shots, and I'm only doing a quarter unit on these. The first one is going to be Baker Mayfield for MVP, and this pays plus 1,000. Or I'm sorry, plus 10,000. So 100 to 1 odds. And I think it is a long shot, like I said, but I think there's value there. I think Baker Mayfield a lot of people's standards or a lot of people's expectations last year, there are still some really good offensive pieces in Tampa Bay. And I think it's possible that Baker Mayfield is just one of those quarterbacks that really gets hot a little later in his career. He was the number 1 overall pick a few years back. He is 29 years old now. So he's been in the league a number of years, never quite lived up to those number 1 overall pick expectations. But I think if he can take a step forward, build on last year's success, assuming, last year wasn't just a fluke or an outlier, but actually a stepping stone to another level in his career, he has a shot to put up big numbers and be in that MVP conversation. And at 100-1, I think it's worth a quarter unit play to win 25 units if he happens to break through and be that guy. If you watched my season awards predictions video, you know that I like Joe Burrow to be the MVP if we're just talking straight up predictions. But again, for betting, we like value, and I think there's value on Baker Mayfield. I think he's being undervalued by the odds makers and therefore is a good value for bettors. So I'm taking a quarter unit on Mayfield to be the MVP. And another long shot bet I like for a quarter unit is Jerod Mayo, Coach of the Year. Jerod Mayo is the new coach of the New England Patriots, one of the worst teams in the league last year. But I think there's value on Mayo for Coach of the Year, and there's a couple angles I like to this. First, I do think the Patriots could be better than expected. I think, especially if Drake May, their 3rd overall pick, lives up to the hype, I think they could win a few more games than what a lot of people think. I think a playoff appearance may be kind of a long shot. But if they could get to, say, 8 wins this year, be a mediocre team that's in the mix, I think Mayo could be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. I also think there's just the fact that he's taking over for the most legendary coach of all time in Bill Belichick. If he can fill those shoes and get more wins than Belichick got last year with a lot of the same pieces and a rookie quarterback, I think that would impress a lot of people. And I think there's also just the fact that Belichick was a notoriously, I guess I'll say notoriously hostile to the press. He didn't really give them a lot in his press conferences. And I think Mayo, from what I've seen so far, has been a little friendlier with the media. And since it is the AP, Associated Press, that votes on the Coach of the Year, I could see them wanting to give it to Mayo just to sort of stick it to Belichick, who was rude to them for 2.5 decades, and say, hey, your successor is the Coach of the Year in his first year as a head coach. So, I don't think that alone would be enough for them to give it to him, but if there's any justification on the field at all, I think that will be something that could push some voters over the edge. So, again, long shot, quarter unit play at plus 3,000. So that would be 7.5 units if it hits. I think it's worth going for. And my final bet that I'm going to give out for this video is my Super Bowl prediction. I'm doing a 2-leg parlay for the AFC champion and the NFC champion. And my AFC champion prediction is the Cincinnati Bengals, and my NFC prediction is the Dallas Cowboys. And this pays plus 775.50. So basically, I'm going to do a unit, and it'll pay about 75 units if it hits. Now, I've said before, I think the Bengals, if they can stay healthy, are the best team in the AFC. I think Joe Burrow has, I know he's been to the Super Bowl before. I think he's got what it takes to get back there. They still have a lot of the same pieces on offense from that AFC championship winning team. And I think they're poised to go on another good run this year if, again, they can all stay healthy and they don't catch any bad breaks. But I'm just, I'm taking the field against the Chiefs. I just think a three-peat is so hard to do. It's always hard to bet against Mahomes too, but I just think I like one of the other 15 teams in the AFC to break through this year. And when you think of it that way, well, there's only a couple teams that really seem like they're in a good position, and the Bengals are one of them. So they're my AFC champion prediction. And as far as the Cowboys goes, look, they've been in the mix for most of the last few years. They always play well in the regular season. I just think one of these years they're going to break through. And there's no one else in the NFC that I really like. I think the 49ers are going to take a step back, have a little Super Bowl hangover. I do think the Lions have a shot, but I could also see them coming up short. I don't really like the Eagles' chances to get back there. I don't think the entire NFC South really has what it takes, despite my my bet on Baker Mayfield. I don't know if I see him going on a Super Bowl run. I just think the field seems ripe for the Cowboys to bounce back from their embarrassing first-round loss last year and finally break through after over 30 years, or about 30 years. I'm trying to remember exactly the last time they were there. I think it might have been 95. So it's about a 3-decade drought that they are due to break through from, and I'm taking them. So Bengals, Cowboys, Super Bowl 59. I think that's what we're up to now, Super Bowl 59. You heard it here first. So, I am excited to get this season started. I will be back next week with my week 1 bets. And for my politics fans out there, we're gearing up for the first debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. So I will maybe, if I have time, try to squeeze in a video, a state of the election type of video ahead of that debate. So thank you as always to my new subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has listened to and watched my videos. And you will be getting more content from me soon. Take care. Bye-bye.